my malaria shot, my typhoid shot, and my pills for cholera and malaria. And myself, I've been bitten many times by mosquitoes, and I've eaten the local food, and I have not gotten sick. But that's definitely a prerequisite for somebody who's coming down to make sure that they talk to their doctor first. But as to what we need everything, and we especially need people who care, because an orphan in Haiti is way down on the priority list for most people. And we're out in the country, and we're not flashy, and we're a little bit hard to find. And so we need people of heart and of faith and of conscience and of skill and ability to assist these children. And so what we're trying to do is create a sustainable orphanage to where it is no longer a charity, where they're able to grow a lot of their own food and find ways of which they can be, again, sustainable. But for now, they need help. It won't be a charity forever. But basically, we're asking for solidarity, not charity. But at this time, things are very, very desperate, and sometimes you just need a hand. So I try to think of it as if I was in this orphanage with nothing, I want to be the sort of person that I would want coming to help me.
Yeah, and how about tents, tarps, some kind of shelter that's more than makeshift?
Oh, absolutely. Now the children, well, to describe a little bit about how they live, they eat the rice and beans, very little water because the water's unclean, so a lot of them are dehydrated, and they sleep on the concrete slab of the destroyed building. And if all bunched together, boys separate from girls, with a sheet. They sleep on top of a sheet, or they can choose to have the sheet on top of them, and then they sleep directly on the concrete, just face down on the concrete, with nothing more than a sheet. I mean, I don't know if these children had ever seen a pillow or a blanket. So yes, a tent would be fantastic, because it's also a lot of mosquitoes here, and the children have to sleep outside. And I looked at one of the children closely the other day, and it looked as though he had bad acne, but it was not. It was all mosquito bites. He must have hundreds of mosquito bites on his face. So the structures or a tent that was able to, and mosquitoes are secondary. I mean, that's not our biggest problem. The biggest problem is that the rainy season is coming. And so at this point, the only buildings that are left in this little compound are two little buildings that have maybe a 10 by 10 or a 10 by 12, two 10 by 12 rooms in them. And so it's like 15 or 20 children sleeping together inside in each room, packed in like sardines.
And when
and we definitely need shelter. And one thing I just want to get to about the larger picture is, in my traveling around, I've seen many encampments of refugee encampments with the most flimsy shelters made of twigs and sticks and tarps and sheets with flat roofs on top that are mostly meant to keep out the sun. But once the rainy season comes, disease in these camps is going to spread, as well as sickness and hunger is already taking a bite, as well as lack of medical care. That's kind of in the macro, but in the micro of this little place, if we could get a large tents down here to where a majority of the children could sleep inside would make a tremendous difference here. As far as needs go, we also need a water filtration system of some kind so that we can produce our own water. The children do not get nearly enough water. So we need clean water, we need shelters, and we need food. And we just, though, made a contact. In fact, I was just called tonight by a Cuban doctor that had just returned to New York City after working down here. And luckily enough, about 10 minutes down the road, we hooked up with the Cubans have set up one of the best operating clinics, and they're actually able to do surgery as well, where they're taking in all comers with any problem, whether or not it was related to the earthquake, and then also doing physical therapy and providing people with medication, and they have a very good supply line. And we had been reaching out for medical aid and with no responses. And I was traveling with a medic who was able to, his name's Paulie, who was able to do triage and was able to do some things, but there was many problems that were beyond his grasp. So he would be taking children to various hospitals, but most hospitals are unable to accept any new patients. And there was another hospital and aid organization set up closer to the border called Love a Child, to where we just took two girls, one that had a UTI infection, and then the other one had a shattered bone in her hand, her thumb, from being broken, that turned into a horrible infection. And so we were able to take them there, but the problem in those camps is that at night, I mean, really great doctors and really great people, but at night there's no security, and there's a great deal of rapes taking place there. And so we don't want to take our children, and especially the girls, to a place where it's very likely that they are raped. And it turns out that the Cubans are very secure, and I just really want folks to know and really put out a huge thanks to the Cubans and the Cuban government for really stepping up when it's needed in some of the more rural places where there's lots of doctors and things in the hospitals down in Port-au-Prince, but there's very little aid that goes out into any of these camps, and then there's no aid that comes out to the quasi-rural area I'm in. But that's one thing that we've managed to be able to connect with, that now if we have any sick children, we can take them to the Cubans, and they are secure, and they will take care of them right away, as women and children are a priority to them. And some of the adults and things, there's two lines, and the women and children in one, and the adults in the other. And I've just had a long conversation with a doctor who had been here since the earthquake, and there's no rapes or anything like that taking place to where the Cubans are. So again, a huge, undying gratitude to the Cubans for providing medical care to the very poorest for free in a very good manner.
And what is the terrain like where you are in the event of the rainy season? Is there any danger of flooding or mudslides, anything like that?
Well, where we happen to be, I can look to the left and to the right, and I see mountains off in the distance, but we're actually in the plains in between the mountains. So there may be a little bit of, I'm sure it's going to be a huge problem, but I don't think that people will be killed here, although a few days ago during a torrential downpour some 70 miles from here, 11 people were killed in a camp due to mudslides. So, but where I am is safe from that, but there's many places where that's very problematic, especially after the earthquake, when people are living in shelters that just don't give them any protection from the elements to speak of.
Okay. Well, we're right about at the end of an hour So why don't we wrap up, and I will get the vitals as to how to contact you, how people can contact you, websites, and so on and so forth, and we'll post that on our website and also to YouTube. So I'll say thank you and say goodbye, and stay on the line, and we'll talk, and I'll get the vitals from you.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Okay, take care of yourself.
You too.